I'm taking the team total. I'm taking first quarter, first half, full game, taking it all. OU all the way. I lost so much money on OU.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. Can't start from all crazy.
And they run through our ass like shit through a tin horn, man.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
What is up, and welcome to not another CFB pod. We have made it to the championship week, the conference championships in college football. This is week 13 for NFL. This is the weekend review show. We've got a huge show coming because it's, first of all, I love the board. I don't know about my co-host Beast. I'll give him a chance to talk about the board next, but the board's amazing for college. The lines are going to be tighter than normal, though. You got to get your stuff together. You got to have your good data together. And then NFL, obviously, always going to be a solid slate. What's going on, Beast?
Not too much, man. I'm fired up, just like you said. I mean, this is going to be an awesome weekend of football. We've had a lot of good weekends, but when it becomes conference championship weekend, this is going to be as good as it gets. A lot of really tight matchups. But it should be said that we're recording this one night early. So, when you guys see this is going to mean, like PG said, these lines can change. It's going to be a lot of people betting these games this weekend. So, definitely try to be sharp with your plays, I would say.
Yeah. So, we're recording Wednesday night. We normally record Thursday night. And the pod's still going to drop on Friday morning like we normally would. But this way, it's kind of, I don't know. We just needed to get together a day earlier than normal, which is fine because the lines are up. We've been at it. We've been in the lab. I know you have as well.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. This is going to be a fun show. This is why we do it all year. You know, we've grinded to this point.
No, I think it worked out good, too, because if there was a week where we were going to do it a day early, like it being conference championship week, they put those lines out like Sunday.
Exactly.
And people have been hammering them all week. You know what I mean?
They've already moved a lot. Exactly. And it's a much smaller slate. So it's a lot easier for us to look at. But dude, I don't know about you, but when I was just looking at the board, the picks were just coming in. They were just, it was just, I just felt it. And, it's in part because we've been watching these teams all year. A lot of times you'll have a week where you're like, well, I want to bet against this team. I see that they did really bad last week in the box score, but I didn't actually watch that game. With championship weekend, you've seen these teams play. You've got an idea of how these teams play. So now it's just kind of, does the game go the way you think it will? I'm feeling good. Positive vibes only. My sign's dying. It takes 4 AAs. I'm not filling it back up. Maybe it's good luck. It's dead. Positive vibes only. I guess, are we ready to roll into the college football slate and just kind of talk about that? My sign's alive again. It heard me talk about college football. It's going crazy. Now,
hey,
I don't know what's happening.
We got to get it going just like the sign, baby. Positive
I know.
vibes.
You just got to juice it up. Okay, so Friday night, we've got a couple games. First off, I want to note there is a makeup game, Akron at Buffalo. Obviously, remember that weekend in Buffalo where it was 6 feet of snow. Yeah. They were scheduled to play Akron. That it's back. Could be in the weeds play. I don't know. I didn't pick anything for it, but we also have the Conference USA Championship, North Texas at UTSA, 6:30 p.m. Central, going down in the Alamo Dome, San Antonio, Texas. Kind of fun. North Texas hasn't been in a championship game in a long time. I have a play on this game. It's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I'm going to have a play on this one, too. I feel like we're going to have plays on nearly every one of these conference
there's not that
games.
Many, so.
Which is good. We'll have plays for everybody. But the biggest thing I can say is just, it's going to be kind of a, you got North Texas and then Texas San Antonio. So, I feel like it's going to be a game where a lot more people show up for that game.
It's going to be a full
we
stadium.
Would probably expect, you know what I mean? Everybody's going to want to travel because it's an in-state kind of game.
That is the one thing about these conference championship games that are played at a home field is at least the stands are going to be full and the scenes are going to be great. We've got a MAC game going down that happens in Ford Field there in Detroit. Yep. Much as I love the MAC, it's going to be not even the lower bowl will be full. So it just kind of is what it is. But that'll be fun. That's coming up later. Let's talk about the Cold One Classic Saturday night. I've got to play on this game, but very excited for Utah, USC, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. It's a fast turf. I'm excited for this one. I mean, we've been talking Pac-12 all year. We've been talking about the Utes and USC all year as well, which, not to pat ourselves on the back too much. Those are really good teams, but still, those are teams we were on.
Yeah, definitely. I have no plays in this game, but I might have to lock something in. Like I'm gonna have to see how
You have to
PG
tell
breaks
me.
this one down, just
Yeah.
because you're right. It's gonna be such a good game, such a high point total. It's gonna be. I mean, it was an awesome first game when these two teams played, like back and forth. I think it finished like 44-41 or something like that. I'm just going off the top of my
Uh-huh.
head, but yeah, I mean, it was just a back and forth game, and I would expect it probably will be similar to that again. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be one of the best games of the weekend for sure.
That's gonna be fun. That is gonna be fun, and that's kind of how your Friday night wraps up. And then first thing Saturday morning, well, sort of. If you're, I back in the days before I had a kid and I could sleep in, it would have been first thing in the morning. But we've got a couple 11 a.m. games. The first one we want to talk about: Kansas State at TCU. Our Horned Frogs. You know, we've liked K State, especially since they've moved to Howard at quarterback. I've got to play on this game. Arlington, Texas. It's where the Big 12, championship is played. Kind of kicking myself. This would have kind of been a fun one to go to because, like, I don't expect, even though Fort Worth is right there, I don't expect it'll be mostly full, but it's not going to be, Kansas State's pretty far from Dallas, but it's not that bad of a drive. You just go down I-35 basically the whole way. It should be fun, but the tickets probably weren't that insane to buy, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I live pretty close to there. So going to be fun. What do we think about TCU K-State?
That's one of those games where I told the guys on the CFB Central show too. I said, as much as I want to take Kansas State, I even thought about making them my money line dog of the week. I was like, this could be the spot where TCU finally slips up. We've been saying that for like 10 weeks now. It feels like it literally has been pretty much every single game that they've played since like week 3 or 4. We're like, yeah, they're not that good. And they just keep winning. So I'm like, I almost don't want to fade them at this point, especially like their record against the spread is like ridiculous. So it's like every time people are fading them on the spread, money line, like whatever, they just keep winning. So I feel like technically, like I could still see Kansas State winning, but I don't have the guts right now to go against TCU.
Yeah.
They're doing some magical things. Their eyes got to be set on, making the CFP. Obviously,
One win away, man. One win away from being the 3 seed. What we think, at least. Let's talk about a little bit more of this slate. We also have in that time slot Toledo at Ohio. Both quarterbacks. Well, Ohio's quarterback is out. Toledo's quarterback's pretty questionable. Finn. I'm pretty sad about Rourke, though, for Ohio. We've been tailing him all year. He's been a lot of fun. Still, this total, I think, is like at 55. In Ohio, their backup quarterback's not great, but he's not that bad either. Kind of more of a dual threat guy. Kind of gives them a different angle on their offense. And if you're going to be a backup quarterback, you may as well be one that can use their legs a little. How you feeling about the MAC championship going down there in Detroit?
I'm going to have a play on this game, so I won't give away my play, but my biggest thing that I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get some of my buddies to go to the game because it's
you
like
gotta go.
Because at this point it's like if we're going to have a conference championship, I don't care if it's just the MAC. We live like 20 minutes from Detroit. Like it's not a far drive. And the tickets, like you said,
I see one for $4.
It's ridiculously low.
Go.
Like it's so low. And they're like general admission for the end zones. So like you could get there early
and sit right there.
Yeah, or if you really wanted, go downtown Detroit, get some brunch, some mimosas going, some Bloody Marys, roll down to the game at noon, have a good old time, maybe kind of go out after. Like, I'm like, dude, we can make a day of it downtown Detroit, and the tickets are going to be like $5-10 for
that's going to be like
admission.
the cheapest part of your day. Actually going into the stadium.
Heck, we could go and tailgate with like the Toledo fans or the Ohio fans. I know they're going to be there, so.
Oh yeah.
It might be something to do.
That is the cool thing. Like, so this is a championship game in a big NFL stadium, but number one, these teams aren't super far from there, Toledo and Ohio. Yeah. But number two, the people that are going are like the most hardcore fans, or they're just like the moms and dads of the players. So like, that's going to be like one of the most fun tailgates you could do.
Oh, we're going to get some 50-year-olds doing fireball shots, baby.
Exactly. In the winter in Detroit, dude.
Hell yeah.
That's going to be scenes. We hope to see. Keep your eye on Coda Capper Beast.
I'm going to try.
We'll see what he can do. We've also got the Sun Belt Championship, 2:30, Coastal Carolina and Troy. Now, this one is actually in Troy. So this is another one of those games, conferences, Sun Belt, that plays sort of a home game for whoever is the 1 seed. We wanted to mention here, I think before we break down the game, we should maybe mention that actually Coastal really shouldn't even be in this. It should be James Madison. But because James Madison just moved up from FCS to FBS, the NCAA rules are if you move a division, it's a post game or what postseason ban. Yeah, postseason ban. So that means no bowl for James Madison and no conference championship. So that means Coastal Carolina slided into place. I want to get my take off before Beast does his. I think mine's pretty simple, and I'll get out of the way. Basically, if a team moves up, there shouldn't be a postseason ban. I can totally see if a team's moving down, there should be, because all of a sudden you got D1 guys going against FCS or D2 or whatever. That makes sense. But if you're going up, let them play.
Oh, 100%. Basically bring out the hammer and the nail here, because you hit that one on the head, man, because that's exactly it. Is like, if you're going to move up, there should not be a postseason ban. If you're going to move down, I get it, because maybe like, you went from FBS to FCS. Suddenly maybe the FBS team that was going to FCS might be better, but no, it's stupid. James Madison doesn't deserve to get absolutely no reward for how good they played in their first season. Those players got to be frustrated. Maybe it's just more motivation for next year, but I agree. There needs to be a change to that. There has to be, because there should be no punishment for going from being like an FCS school that nobody really, I guess, followed a ton until this year, and played really well this year. They showed they should be in the FBS. So it sucks. Yeah. I agree. It sucks.
It's one of those archaic NCAA rules that it's like they just kind of blanket made a rule. This won't be a big deal. This will never come up. A team's never going to come up into FBS and then be good enough to get in the postseason. That just doesn't happen. I really didn't think James Madison will be this good this year, but shout out to the Dukes. They had a good season. So let's talk about the game. Coastal Carolina, Troy, real quick. I didn't have a play on this. Now I still might, because Grayson McCall, he could be back for Coastal Carolina. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But that's, benefit. Follow us on Twitter. And if we do end up having a play on it, we'll let you know. But as of right now, starting quarterback's kind of up in the air. I don't love it so much.
Yeah, that was my exact thought. Was I wanted to kind of see if Grayson McCall would come back. He hasn't played in a minute, so we don't even know like if he would be the same Grayson McCall that we're used to. But it's an 8.5 point spread, and if he gets announced as playing, it's probably going to drop to like 6.5, 7. Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference between 8.5 and 6.5. Let's just say, I would imagine it would be like at least a 2-point swing. I would have to guess.
Oh yeah.
And that's a big difference when we're trying to bet, right around that touchdown number. So I stayed away just because there's so many other games going on that we're really locked in on. But it's going to be a fun game. I feel like I hope McCall plays, just because that makes that a really fun game to watch. He's always electric, and Troy's looked really good, man.
Yeah, Troy's a good team. I do want to say that originally Grayson McCall was diagnosed 3 to 6 weeks. So this is week 4. And this is a guy who once said, "I pissed heel." And, he didn't play last week, but they didn't need to play against James Madison to make the championship game, because they already knew because of James Madison's post-game ban, they can't play. So we basically clinched the division, without – it's a little unfair, but we already talked about that. So I do think Grayson McCall plays, but we'll see. I don't know. I may end up just taking the number against the spread rather than just taking the money line, but maybe there's some value there if you really, really think that our guy's going to play. Let's move on to the SEC championship game. We got number 14 LSU taking on number 1 Georgia. LSU taking on a disappointing loss against last week against the Aggies. But I did want to, we mentioned it on the show. I was scared. I have a play on this game. It worried me how easy it was to run against LSU for A&M. Now you're going to Georgia. That's all Georgia wants to do. And obviously this game's in Atlanta. It's going to be way more Georgia fans there than there are LSU fans. Although shout out LSU, they'll show up. They'll be rowdy. Don't worry about that. But it's in Atlanta. Like, dude, there's so many Georgia fans, Oh,
100%. LSU, their only real hope here. I know they're probably trying to play for getting maybe into like one of these New Year's bowls, but they're just trying to be spoiler. Like that's basically it at this point, because you're not going to make the CFP. You just basically want to spoil Georgia's, chances. But even if they did, I still think Georgia stays in. Even if Georgia loses this game, like I don't see a scenario where they drop out of the top 4. So unless it was like an absolute blowout by LSU, but that's not happening. So I'm not really sure how much they have to play for. Like I said, maybe they're trying to play for that, maybe like a New Year's Six bowl. They might be able to get in somewhere, but I wonder what their motivation is. So this is going to be a weird game. I have a play on this game, and I believe you do too.
Yep,
So I'm excited to break that one down, just because that's going to be a fun matchup, I think.
Yeah, it's still big boy football. I mean, it's still the SEC championship. The SEC I still think is the best conference this year. It wasn't as strong as maybe it looked like early on, with Tennessee taking some losses. Obviously, LSU took their loss. Bama's got 2 losses. So looks like it's just kind of Georgia and then kind of a bunch of good but not great teams. But still, it's the SEC. You got to watch. We've also gotten that time slot. We've got UCF and Tulane. This is the American Athletic Conference Championship. And they're another conference that plays kind of at the location of the number 1 seed. So in this case, it's Tulane. This game go down in Yulman Stadium. I've got to play on this game. These teams have already played once this year. It was a barn burner. Beast had the over in that one. That was easy tail, easy cash. What are you thinking for this one?
I really wanted to kind of run back the over, and I still might, honestly. Like, that was a play I think I had in, and then I maybe pulled it back, and then whatever. But I would have to, like, if I was leaning one way right now, I think I would probably do that just because I've already, done it once. Maybe
and it was easy last time.
Yeah, it was. The weird thing about that game is that, like, Tulane did not play well in that game. They looked pretty bad, and they were at home. John Reese Plumlee had a really solid game. Not really sure what the full report is on if he's playing. But their backup quarterback was really, really solid. What's his name? Mikey something?
I don't have it pulled up, but yeah.
He played pretty he played pretty well last week from what I thought. He could kind of run the ball. He wasn't perfect, but he's pretty decent quarterback. Like, I feel like UCF still stands a very good shot in this game. Doesn't make sense to me, I guess, why UCF is not favored in this game because they've already won the first game, but it's got to be probably the Plumlee stuff, I would assume.
Yep. Just so much question marks up in the air, sort of. I've got to play on that coming up, so we'll let you know. We've also got the Mountain West Championship. I wish this game was later. I don't know why they did this. So this game's on Fox at 3 p.m. Fresno State at the Blue Turf at Boise State. So obviously it's at Boise, Idaho, another one of those conferences that plays like the home field. And now that I say that, I kind of get why it's at 3 p.m. because you are way up north. You are in snow country up there. But I think right now it's cold, but the weather looks kind of clean. It doesn't look like it's gonna be snow or anything like that. But that's kind of, it's Boise, Idaho. So now I kind of get why it's early in the day because it's gonna get cold quick there. Should be a fun game though. I've got to play on it, I think. Yes, I do. And you do too, I think.
Yeah, I got a couple plays on that one. That's going to be
good. Let's go.
A low key, like when we tune into that on Fox, I know there's going to be a lot of good games during that, but there's a real legitimate shot that Georgia game gets just out of hand fast.
It's a 17-point spread.
Yeah, so if you're looking for one of the best games of the weekend that you may not have expected to be really dialed in on, it's a 3.5-point spread. And both teams, man, they can move the ball. They can really play some good football. Like, maybe it's just because I low-key kind of have a side love for the Mountain West. Like, I like the brand of football they play, man. It's a fun conference.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really, really good game, and I'm excited for the plays, too.
Yes, absolutely. We'll get to those in our picks here coming up shortly. Let's talk real quick about that Big Ten championship game going down at 7 p.m. Big boy football. Michigan, Purdue, going down in Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis, Indiana. Always fun in the Big Ten championship. It's something about Big Ten teams in that stadium. I love it. What are our thoughts? I think Michigan rolls, but anything could happen.
Yeah, no, I that's a good take. I feel like the whole Big Ten football inside the Colts stadium, especially
something about it's different this time of year. Like, you're used to seeing like some bad weather and some snow. Now all of a sudden, here's these teams on turf. I don't know.
It just it fits. Yeah, it fits. There's something about it. Yeah, and it does kind of open stuff up. I'm excited for that game. I do have a play on it.
Oh, good. I may have to tell because this is one of the only ones I don't have one on.
Yeah, so. Most people are probably looking at the spread thinking, oh, like this isn't going to be as fun of a game. And I've talked to a lot of people that, are like, man, I wish it was Illinois that got in, or I wish it was Iowa. But like, put a little bit of respect on Purdue's name still.
It's
Like,
to me, that's a way more fun name to watch. Maybe Illinois, but definitely not Iowa. We don't want to.
right.
No hate to the Iowa fans. We've got like our loyal guy, Coda Capper Kyle.
Yep.
I think Don Thomas Miller is one as well. But
yeah, well,
I think it's interesting to see Purdue in there. It's just something different,
Yeah, well, my argument, like when I heard a couple people tell me that, I was like, well, Michigan played Iowa this year, and Michigan also played Illinois. I'm like, and they struggled with Illinois, frankly, but we know what would probably happen in those matchups. They haven't faced Aiden O'Connell. No, is that going to matter? I don't know, but I do have a play on this game, so I'm excited for it. It should be good. It should be good right now. We're liking the brand of football that Michigan's playing, and I hate to say that, man. I hate
you've said it a lot lately.
I hate watching that team and being like, man, like they're playing a brand of football that like I kind of like,
That's a great way to put it, a brand of football. Like they've really embraced the Jim Harbaugh kind of mentality of like we're not going to be flashy, we're going to have the khakis on. But we're just going to keep winning games, and you're going to have to respect us at the end of the day because we play big boy football. So that should be fun. I'm more enthused about that game than the last game I'm going to talk about. It's Clemson. It's North Carolina for the ACC championship going on in Charlotte, 7 p.m. as well. Clemson coming off of a loss to rival South Carolina. North Carolina coming off of 2 straight losses. But still, we love our guy Drake May. I don't have a play on this game, but it should be fun. I don't know.
I think we're gonna have to cook something up throughout this week. We'll find something. Probably keep an eye on the lines for sure, because with it being like a 7.5 point spread, it's a weird number. Like I can't talk myself into taking Clemson right now, especially with how they've played. Obviously, they looked awful against South Carolina, but at the same time, like UNC, man, like their defense is awful. So we're gonna have to find something. Maybe we cook something up on the total, but nonetheless, I wouldn't be shocked if UNC could keep this game close, maybe even pull off some upsets. We'll see. It could be a better game than expected, I guess.
I think it could be. I mean, we'll get into it and we'll see, but I think it could be fun. I don't know. Those championship games always hit a little different. It seems like the lights are a little brighter. That's the game on ABC, so likely it'll be Kirk Herbstreit on the call. We love our guy Kirk, so
if Drake May goes off, dude, that's gonna be. And Kyle said that. I believe it was Kyle that said that. One of the guys that is with the network said that. They said if Drake May has a huge game and beats Clemson, that would be like his shining moment entering next year. Like he's got to be the Heisman favorite, and I think he will be. But that would definitely be like a UNC legendary moment.
Yeah, and he may even get invited to New York. We talked about that on the show on Tuesday, so we'll see. Are we ready to kind of transition onto NFL preview real quick before we get some picks?
Yeah.
I want to quickly talk about the sponsor of this podcast, the BetCoda Sportsbook. The BetCoda Sportsbook is a South Dakota owned and operated sportsbook located in the Midnight Star Casino in Deadwood, South Dakota, serving customers in the state. As you enter the Midnight Star, you're something to the past with the grand staircase, stunning woodwork, and the elegance of the chandelier. They offer the best lines in Deadwood, so stop by and mention the Coda Sports Gambling Network to receive a free BetCoda t-shirt. Play responsibly, must be 21 years or older to wager. Gambling problems or concerns? Call 1-800-522-4700. Okay, so we're going to talk some NFL now. I actually really like this Thursday game we're starting off with. Low-key, solid game, Bills-Patriots. I guess by the time people listen to this, they'll already have seen the results of this game, but just know that Beast and I are excited about it. And with that said, we'll jump into the Sunday slate. I said it like 3 or 4 times on the last pod that I thought this was the week when Cowboys and Eagles played, but it's definitely not. The Cowboys are on the Sunday night game this week with the Colts. We'll go through it kind of chronological here. Maybe the first game that jumps out when you look at the noon slate, Packers-Bears. Old school rivalry. I've got to play on this game. Justin Fields questionable. Sounds like Aaron Rodgers is going to give it a go, though.
Yeah, that's what's weird is there's so many quarterback questions, and you'd think that like with where both teams' season is, that they could probably both say, you know what, like it's just not in our cards right now. Like we should rest our quarterbacks. But Rodgers wants to keep going. He's saying the whole until it's like mathematically not possible for me to get into the playoffs. Like I'm going to still play. Bears, on the other hand, I would rest Fields because if you had something happen to Fields, that could really delay the whole rebuild thing that they're doing right now.
Losing's good for them right now.
Yeah, like bring in Simeon. They looked so fucking bad last week. They need to do it again, man.
Oh, that hurts my soul to even think about Trevor Simeon playing quarterback, but I've got to play on that game. We'll come around to it. We've got Steelers-Falcons. It's a very close spread is why I wanted to bring it up. Falcons, obviously, even at 5-7, they're still in the hunt there for that division. But not maybe the most interesting game. We'll see if Beast has a play on it. It's a close one. I wanted to get his thoughts real quick on Jaguars-Lions. Again, a close spread, 2, 4, and 7 teams. A tough spot for our guy Beast because low-key it's better if the Lions lose here to the Jags at home.
It would be. It would be better for draft position. What's funny is like I still have, my brother and I also have plenty of my friends that are like, dude, what if we won? Like, do you think it's still possible for us to get the wild card? And it is technically possible. But a lot of things would still need to happen, and they'd pretty much need to like lose one game for the rest of the year. I just maybe I'm just a little bit too real, and I know what I've seen out of the Lions the last friggin' 25 years of my life. like it's just nothing changes. But technically, I guess if they win, like somebody could try to talk me into this idea, but I don't know. I agree with you. Probably should try to lose, but I think they're the better team.
They're a lot better team, I think, on paper, man. And here's the thing. If you want to keep Dan Campbell around, this is another one of those games where it feels like if you want him to stay, like when they look at his resume at the end of the year, losing to the Jags at home when the Jags are clearly like in a season where they're kind of trying to lose, that's going to be a hard one to be like, well, he did lose that, but, this would be a much better one on the resume to win.
Yeah.
Honestly, exactly. Yeah. They should have probably beaten the Bills. You could say that either way. That was a pretty good, but at least they played really well against one of the Super Bowl favorites. So losing to the Jaguars right after that would be a pretty tough drop off. So I'm kind of rooting for our Lions this weekend. I'm not going to lie. I don't have a play on it, but we'll move on down the board a little bit. We're looking at an AFC NFC matchup in that 12 o'clock slot, 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. if you're over there on the East Coast. Jets, Vikings, 7-4 Jets, 9-2 Vikings. Close spread, 3-point spread. Kirk Cousins at noon, probably going to be Mike White. What do we think?
Yeah. Well, we said we liked how well Mike White looked. I really don't doubt the fact that right now their quarterback situation, he probably is the hot hand, and you have to run with that right now. You kind of got to just roll with what's working. I like the Jets. I think that the Jets have a lot of other pieces around. Like a lot of the focus does go to the quarterback situation because you kind of need a quarterback. But their defense has been really good at times. We've been impressed with their running game. Obviously I know Breece Hall's, out, but he's been out for a couple weeks, and we've seen Carter have some good weeks and some other guys really step up. Like they're actually a pretty fundamentally sound team. I like what their coach Salah's doing with them. I'm not saying they're going to beat Minnesota because Minnesota's a really solid squad, but that spread feels like a trap. It feels like the 9-2 Vikings should be favored by 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So it's a weird one.
It is a weird one. I didn't end up having a play on this, but I was leaning Jets. But I knew if I picked against the Vikings again, the guys in Minnesota would not be happy with me, or the guys that are fans of the Minnesota Vikings would not be happy with me.
If it lost, you wouldn't hear the end of it.
I know. They're already saying that I bet against them every week, which is not really true, but, it's whatever. Let them have their narrative. We've got some other interesting games. Honestly, this slate is pretty sick the more and more I look into it because we've got Commanders, Giants, NFC Beast matchup there. The Commanders are actually favored here by 2.5. And if you look into it, I think it makes some sense just because the Commanders, it's all D-line. And what the Giants want to do, they want to run the ball on you. So it's kind of a strength versus strength thing. What do you think about that matchup?
I'm going to have a play on that game. I think you're totally right. Actually, the defenses are pretty good. And I'm probably not used to the Giants being like a good team at all, or the Commanders for that matter. But both those defenses, and we were kind of talking about it a little bit last week when we were saying, or on Monday when we were saying, like, the reason the Commanders have been such a good money line dog pick is because their defense has actually held them in games.
Yeah.
Going to be a fun matchup. I actually think it's going to be pretty close, kind of down to the wire, but I have a play on that one, so I'm excited to talk about that one.
Yes, going to be a good one. Let's talk about a game. We've also got Broncos Ravens in that time slot. Ravens big favorites. We don't need to spend much time on the stinky Broncos. We got Browns Texans, Deshaun Watson coming back. We don't need to talk about the stinky Browns. Let's talk about Titans Eagles. It's 2 first place teams going at it and the noon slot. Eagles coming off of kind of a big win on Sunday Night Football. Titans still aren't being talked about enough, but the Eagles are favored by 5 here. Interesting matchup, 2 playoff teams.
I almost put a play in on the Titans just because you're right. Nobody wants to bet on them right now. And, at 5.5, 5, whatever the number you get it, like, you're getting a solid team. Like, yeah. I really do think, like, Derrick Henry, Tannehill's just kind of the game manager right now, but they're doing good things right now. They're in every single one of their games. You don't see them really lose games by like a full 7 points. I think last week they lost to the Bengals by 4? Because we had Bengals in that one. Yep. But
16-20.
Yeah, and rarely do they lose by more than 4 to 5 points. So you'd be getting a team that wins a lot of games, and when they don't win, they're losing close. Like, they're not really getting blown out in nearly every one of those spots, I feel like.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's fun because it's 2 playoff teams. We'll get to your play on that later. Or did you say you didn't have a play?
I don't have a play, but maybe I'll talk myself into it later.
Yeah, exactly. Keep an eye on our Twitters because when we're looking at the Sunday slate, that's a long time from Wednesday. So these numbers will move a lot. Maybe one will catch our eye. Seahawks Rams is also going down in that 305 slot, 405, I guess, if you're on the East Coast. Seahawks Rams, it's a NFC West matchup. Seahawks still there. They're not in first place anymore. They're a game out now with the 49ers, but not much to say about that. But if you look down one game, you've also got in that same time slot, you got the 49ers at home. You got the Dolphins on the road, 2 very good teams, 2 teams we think are going to be playoff teams. Close spread. What are we thinking about this West Coast matchup? Dolphins, 49ers.
Well, if Tua and them can kind of get it going on that 49ers defense, that would be a statement because we've said how explosive the Dolphins can be at times, and we've also said how good that 49ers defense is. So it's kind of like one of the best offenses, I would say, in the league as far as speed goes, and then one of the most, I guess, suppressing defenses with the 49ers. Could be an interesting matchup of which unit is really better. Because I love to talk about how much I like the 49ers defense, but Tua and Tyreek Hill, and a lot of those guys on that offense, a lot of speed. So we'll see. That could be a really underrated matchup on the NFL slate.
That's a fun game in that slate. There's another good one in that time slot as well. Chiefs, Bengals. Chiefs are 2.5 points in Cincinnati. They're favored, in Cincinnati. I think that could be a good game too. 2 teams I think are going to both be in the playoffs. Chiefs are obviously going to win the AFC West. Bengals right there in the hunt in the AFC North. How you feeling about that one?
Yeah, that's a replay. What of the championship from last year, right?
The AFC championship?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, AFC championship. I believe, yeah.
I think
because what had happened was Chiefs beat the Bills to make the AFC championship.
The emotional win.
And then they end up going out and losing anyways to the Bengals because Joe Burrow is just hot. So actually, there's some storylines going there because the Chiefs didn't forget about that. Mahomes is one of those guys. He takes that stuff to heart. He's going to want a little bit of revenge. They're trying to establish themselves as, this is our year. We slipped up a little bit last year. Bengals at the same time trying to kind of get their season. I think it's fully correct to say that they've gotten their season back on track now. Really tough start for them, but they're looking really, really good right now. I think they've stacked enough wins up in a row here that I can say that they're moving in the right direction. They're probably going to be a hot team entering the playoffs. So could be an electric game if those 2 quarterbacks start cooking, man.
Yeah, over under a 52.5. I almost feel like you got to play the over just because that number is so big for the NFL. That's what's kind of crazy. It's not that high of a total when you're looking at college, but NFL, Chargers Raiders also going down in that first or in that 3 o'clock time slot. Excuse me. Interesting game, but not a lot of like. Well, the Chargers could still be a playoff team, be kind of a wild card team, but the Raiders don't know what to think about them right now. But let's look at that Sunday night game. Our Cowboys taking on the Colts at home. Cowboys 11-point favorites. It's a lot of points. I've got to play on this game, and it's not a homer play. So that's great. The people won't have to get mad at me again. Although my homer plays tend to hit, to be fair to myself, but very fun matchup. Both teams with some, they're both pretty healthy coming into this. Man, I just have a bias because I watched the Colts play like kind of the last game on my mind.
Yeah, Monday, yeah.
Oh man, Micah Parsons is gonna hurt Matt Ryan. I'm afraid of it. So
he is. No, I have a feeling that it could be similar to kind of the stuff we saw out of Micah Parsons last week, where he's just dominating this game. And being in Dallas this week, that's not good for the Colts, because if the Colts were getting them in Indy, maybe this would be a little bit different of a matchup. I still think the Cowboys would probably roll them, but at least they'd have the whole home field advantage thing.
Yeah.
But it could get ugly anytime these double-digit, spreads kind of come out. But with that said, we've seen some double-digit games where teams just play better,
Yep.
Like we've seen a lot of stuff happen. It's the NFL any given Sunday.
That's
so
right.
it'll be a good matchup, if nothing else, on Sunday.
Yeah, and then Monday night we've got a divisional matchup, NFC South. It's crazy to even say this, but both these teams are in kind of playoff position. Saints at Buccaneers. Buccaneers got that like half game lead there in the AFC South, but they're only one win ahead of the Saints. It's gross. I'm sure it's going to be stupid Andy Dalton playing again for the Saints. Nobody wants to see that. They're in the weirdest position ever where they're actively tanking, but low-key, if they tried just a little bit, they could be in the playoffs. It's a mess.
Yeah, and I know Jameis Winston was like really upset. He's like, this was not like why he's like, they said that you don't get benched if it's due to an injury, and he's like, that's what's happening here. Like, there were some frustrations.
Wow,
I believe that he was frustrated because he felt like that it was just that he got injured, that he lost.
Well, that's
his
what
job.
I'm saying. That's why I feel like they're losing on purpose, because they refuse to play him.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. I don't really, I don't know. Maybe Dalton's showing more, but you know what's funny is like that matchup. If I would have looked at it at the start of the year, I would have been like, yeah, these teams both have like 7 or 8 wins right now. It's a battle.
Pencil both these teams into the playoffs potentially. I mean,
Yeah,
Saints maybe in the wild card, and then the Buccaneers to win that division. It's probably what you were thinking.
Right. No, I thought, okay, like this is going to be 2 teams battling like up at the top of the division, which like they are. They're just in a way different place than I thought. Like I didn't expect them to be like 5-6 and like 4-7 battling it out. Yeah, 4-8. Like didn't expect that to be like the battle for the division, but it is still a battle for the division. Like it's just a much different situation, and the teams are much worse than we thought. That total is 40.5. So like,
yeah,
the fact that we're looking at that, a lot of star players between the Bucs and the Saints, and we're only getting a total of 40.5. That speaks volumes. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, that does wrap up our NFL slate, at least. So now we can get into the picks. We can talk about some fun games. Like I said, championship weekend in college football. Where are we starting out? We're getting in the weeds. Where do you want to start us, Beast?
Well, we can only get like so in the weeds when it's a conference championship week. If we're doing
These
college.
teams aren't really in the weeds once you get to the conference championship.
But it's going to be a game that it's definitely not going to be the number one conference championship game on everybody's radar. We already talked about how it's not going to be much of a sellout, and that's going to be the Toledo and Ohio game. I'm going to take the Ohio Bobcats plus 1.5 here. I know they lost their quarterback. What is it, Curtis Rourke? We like our guy Rourke, but unfortunately he's out. But this backup CJ Harris, he's been fine. He actually did all right last week. I was kind of impressed. He didn't have to do much. Because the team's defense is kind of stout and they have a really good running game with some of their other guys. But this quarterback, CJ Harris, he can run the ball himself. He had like 65 yards on the ground last week for Ohio. So, I mean, maybe we'll get a little bit of dual threat action. And at the other side of that, it's just that DeQuan Finn for Toledo was very banged up, wasn't really able to finish that game last week. And they looked bad in that loss to Western Michigan.
Yeah.
That's telling me that if I'm going to get plus 1.5 for an Ohio team that I think's just as good. I think they're the better team. I would even think about doing the money line if you really don't want to take the 1.5. I still think that Ohio is probably the better team in this matchup, even with this CJ Harris kid at quarterback.
Uh-huh.
And I just, with it being, a neutral site game, like there's going to be no advantage for Toledo really. I got to go with Ohio here. I think both teams are very, very even. It's much more of a pick 'em than anything. And I think Ohio's the better school. So that's who I would, pick there. So we're going to take plus 1.5.
Okay. All right. There it is, folks. I like it. We've been an Ohio Bobcats kind of podcast all year. So, I don't mind. I need to look because I was hovering that bet too, but I don't think I pulled the trigger on it. I'll definitely have to now. Yeah, I didn't pull the trigger on it. I'm going to pull it now. Let's go Ohio. My in the weeds play, this is going to be a fun one. UTSA and North Texas going down to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. I'm taking the over here. I got it at 69. It's hovering around 70, 69 now. I just think these are two offenses that are playing some really good football. Neither defense, I mean, they're not anything special, but it's really more about the tempo of these offenses for me. We know we've talked a bunch of times about Harris, this UTSA offense, time and time again. They can go score, and the thing is, they score quick. Now, I know if you look into this matchup, the first time these teams played each other, neither team played great. North Texas probably should have won. They didn't. But instead, I'm just going to take the over. I'm going to have a great time that Friday night watching two electric offenses going down. 6:30 Central on CBS Sports Network. I mean, it doesn't get much more in the weeds than that.
No, it doesn't, man. And I'm glad you hit that play because I can kind of start off my best bets where I'll piggyback on you because I got that over too.
Let's go.
68.5, 69, whatever number you guys get it at. But that number, like on Monday or Tuesday of this week, was at like 67.5. So hopefully you guys are following our Action Network and you guys get that in as soon as you guys can. If because the pod's not going to be out for a day here. But I love that one. I really think you're spot on. I really like that UTSA offense. They average 36.6 points per game. And North Texas, they score a plenty too, 32.3 per game. These are both, I want to say I looked at it, and they were both like top 40, top 50 offenses. And UTSA is up there. They're like a top 15 in the country. So they put up the points. They move the ball fast. I think especially that that first matchup was kind of a slower matchup. That makes me feel like maybe they're going to open things up in this matchup, maybe try some new things. They got a little bit of feel each other out the first game. And this being like the whole Texas versus Texas kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
There might be some, kind of spicy things going on. We might see a couple big plays. I love that idea of taking an over with this because I think both offenses are so good. So I would
this time of year as well. I mean, these offenses, that's the one thing. Also, if you're really heavy looking at the last time these two teams played, it's been a few weeks since then. Both these offenses have really kind of hit their stride since. So I like it a lot. I guess I'll go into my best bets now as well. I'm looking at this Utah USC over. I got it in at 67. I think it's already up to like 68. So take this thing as soon as you can. The last time these two teams played, guess what? It was 43-42. Both these teams love to score. I love Utah's coach. The only fear I have is that he goes, maybe let's not try to get into a track meet, but I don't think he's going to take the ball away from his offense, which means I think they're going to just do their thing. Hopefully their defense makes enough plays in the end and they win. But I love this over. It's mostly the tempo both of these teams play with. Watch this game Friday night. When a team gets a first down, they're sprinting down the field to get another snap in because they want to keep that defense on the field. These guys are going to get tired. They're going to get a bunch of legal substitution penalties. We're going to be moving it down the field. It's going to go over 68. I start thinking about this number a little less. Once it hits 70, 70.5, that's when things to me have to be almost perfect. Like with this number, you can, if there's a field goal or two, you're still alive. You're not just dead. So both these teams are capable of big plays. Cam Rising, Caleb Williams, you got the Heisman quarterback. You got a very good quarterback on the other side. Love this over.
I like it too, man. That's a good play. I think that's one that I wanted to take, but this is one of those weeks where I feel like I just love every over I'm seeing. And maybe that's just because I'm expecting like these teams are all good. Sometimes that scares me when I'm like, man, but I think I might have to tail you there.
Let's go.
So I'm going to move to, I guess for me, it's the 4 o'clock slate, but we're going to go to Fresno State at Boise State. This is one of my favorite games of the weekend. I already kind of touched on that. And I'm going to go with Fresno State plus 3.5 here. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people out there that are going to say, but wait a minute, like Boise State beat them by 20 earlier this year.
Yep.
Much different situation. That game was all the way back at the start of October. Yes, it was a 20-point loss, but Fresno State at the time was playing some awful football. They were 1-4 at one point this season, and then they've just rattled off 7 wins in a row. Completely different team than we saw at the start of October. They have really, really come on lately. When you look at their last few games, I mean, popping teams. Like they beat Hawaii 55-13, Nevada 41-14, Wyoming 30-0 last week. We love our guy Jake Haener, best quarterback in the Mountain West, one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the whole country. He was banged up at times this year too, but we love Jake Haener. He's playing some awesome ball right now. Really, really come on. And just the fact that they've just looked like a way different team to the eye test tells me getting that 3.5 and getting that hook on that 3.5. We always say when you can get that hook, they could be down 10. We get a late touchdown to kind of cover. It could be 7, whatever happens. We can get that 3.5. I'm going to have another play on this game coming up later on. I'm sure some people probably have an idea of it, but I won't touch on that one too much. But I love Fresno State here, man. I think they can really pull off the upset.
I like them here too, man. I'm on this same play. So this is another one of those that we're on together. You look at Fresno's last game, it's not just the offense that's playing a little bit better. The defense has really kicked it into gear too. They gave up 14 to Nevada, 0 to Wyoming. And I know it's Wyoming. They're not a great offense, but what they do is they run it right at you. And that's exactly what Boise State would prefer to do. Fresno said, we can pass that test. Like, we figured this out. We're motivated. As you said, they've really kind of flipped the script. Once Jake Haener came back and was healthy, they got out of that out-of-conference schedule, started playing some teams on their level. Jake Haener got healthy. They've been rolling, man. They've been rolling people. So give me the Fresno State Bulldogs as well. This line's another one of those lines that's moving fast, though. Already at 3. Beast and I already told you 3.5, 4, wherever you can get out. But by the time you hear this, it may be right around a pick 'em the way this line's moving. But that's a good thing for people that are on our side of it. Fresno State Bulldogs.
Definitely. Love it, man. Love it. I will go to my next play here. Once again, we're staying with the trend of taking these overs, but I have no problem with it because this is one of my favorite overs of the weekend, and that's going to be the over in LSU and Georgia. I'm taking over 51 points. A lot of people are like, wait a minute, but Georgia, like, they're just not going to allow any points at all. Well, you know what? LSU's defense is so bad right now, and they looked so bad last week. They're in shambles. You give up 38 points to frickin' Texas A&M. Devin A-Chain, they ran the ball 38 times, just kept running it on you, just dominating you. Could not believe what I was seeing from Texas A&M last week. I didn't think they had an offense, and then they put up 38 on LSU's defense. I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia themselves put up 45, 48 themselves. They could put up the full 51, frankly, with how LSU's defense, they quit in that game. They did not want to be there. The fact that they were able to run the ball 38 times on you and you could not stop them at any point just tells me that Georgia's just going to do the same thing. Break you down, and then when they want to, Stetson Bennett can sling it. I would not be shocked if Georgia hit this themselves. But at the same time, if Georgia puts up 38, 42, I could see us getting, 14 points, 13 points, whatever it is out of LSU. Like, Jaden Daniels is not that bad. And the LSU offense has shown some reason to believe that they might be able to get, let's just say, 2 scores on the board. So I know Georgia's defense is like the best in the country to me. But Jaden Daniels, he's an elusive quarterback. They might be able to put up some points for us too. 51 just feels extremely low to me.
It is a low total for college, and I'm glad you're on that looking at LSU last week because I'm on a play for this game too, but it's different. And you guys know when Beast and I are on a play on the same game, but it's not the same play, you automatically take the 2 and parlay them together as well. I'm on I'm on Georgia minus 17.5. I think they're going to smoke LSU. I think you're right. I think you're right on the right step. They could score 51 by themselves. I really think they're going to have no problem. Brock Bowers, the tight end on the play action, because I think Georgia's just going to run the ball at will. That's what we saw last week. Now, I know we're going to get a better effort from LSU, but we're also getting a much better team in Georgia. Like, we know what they're capable of. It's a bunch of studs on offense, clearly a bunch of studs on defense, best defense in the country. I love Georgia here. Whenever you get these big spreads with Georgia, you can believe in it. Now, I know they didn't cover last week against Georgia Tech. No, they didn't cover against Kentucky. But this is a different kind of matchup. This is the SEC Championship in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go, Bulldogs. Don't be afraid to bark at somebody this weekend.
There we go.
Have a good time doing it. Let's go, Bulldogs, -17.
Let's go, baby. We got to get some people barking on the podcast. Let's go, baby. Let's go. No, I like that. I think that's spot on. And they might have a little bit more reason after the last 2 weeks kind of having some issues against the spread. They might want to prove themselves. So they can come out and really just polish it. Just light work for them right there. My last play on college is another big spread. And I'm going to go to Purdue and Michigan. I'm taking Michigan -16.5. I feel like I've done a lot of love for Michigan on this podcast recently, and I really hate doing it, but it's just from a betting perspective and that kind of objective standpoint. Michigan's the far better team in this matchup. Feels like a ton of points, and it is a ton of points, but Michigan is very, very deserving to be 17-point favorites. I got it at 16.5. I think some books still have it at that. Purdue's defense is not good enough to be, to hold this one under 17. This game could be at a 10-point game late, and we see Michigan kind of just pull away. I mean, there's two scenarios that I kind of mentioned on the College Football Central show, which is Michigan wins this game by like 31, 35, similar to how they beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship last year, where they just annihilate you from start to finish. Or Purdue keeps themselves in this game till the fourth quarter. We enter the fourth quarter like, oh my gosh, it's a 10-point game. Could Purdue do this? And then Michigan does exactly what they did against Ohio State, which is just grind you down, late touchdowns. They put up a 75-yard touchdown with Donovan Edwards and an 85-yard touchdown with Donovan Edwards on Ohio State. I could see that same thing happening against Purdue here. Purdue's just, they're not going to be able to hang around forever. And if we have a 10-point game at any point in the fourth quarter, I think Michigan could cover this with a late touchdown. So 16.5 is nothing to me. I think Michigan rolls, and I think they solidify themselves as top 2 in the country right now.
Yep, I think that's a similar feel to how I feel about Georgia. Just the big dogs playing the big dog role. Don't hate it. I love it. I'm going with another favorite here, man, and I'm going to the Big 12 championship. I got to get up.
Let's go.
TCU football. Unblocked potato gobbler. Unblocked potato gobbler. I love TCU this weekend. They're going to win the Big 12. They're going to hoist the trophy. TCU -2.5. Kansas State. Let's go. Okay. I've been a friend of the Frogs. I don't know why they blocked me. Maybe somebody can look it up. I could have said something bad about them, but I don't think I did. I don't know why I'm blocked, to be real honest with you, but I'm blocked. I need TCU to unblock me. I love them this weekend. You've got Max Duggan. They won this matchup the first time pretty easily by 10 points. I think TCU, though, might just be playing their best ball right now. Let's look at the last time TCU was in this position to make the playoff. They're going to want to keep this out of the committee's hands because they won 55-3, I want to say, as the number 3 team. They didn't play in the conference championship game because the Big 12 used to not have a conference championship game. They slid all the way down to number 6, didn't make the playoff. They won their bowl game, finished the year. I like the Frogs, man. I think people have been fading them too often. I know what it looks like. There's always something that doesn't look quite there, but dude, they're just winners. And in a spread as low as 2.5, I really just need them to win. I mean, knock on wood, they're going to win by 2 now, but I think they've got a lot of clear advantages on Kansas State. You're going to have a lot more TCU fans there, I would expect, just because Fort Worth is right down the road from Jerry's World there in Arlington. So give me the Horned Frogs -2.5.
This is a cool matchup, too, from a betting perspective because both teams were ridiculous against the spread. I know I was talking a little bit about how TCU's been so good, but Kansas State themselves, they're 9-3 against the spread this year, and then TCU's 9-2-1. So, like, there's really no edge if you're looking for, like, the against the spread trends. Both teams, great teams to bet on this year if you're a college football bettor. So, should be a really good matchup. And, yes, TCU needs to unblock PG. I don't know what we got to do to get that, but, I don't know.
Get it trending. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, there you go, man. But yeah, go TCU. Like we barked for the dogs. I don't know, maybe ribbit for
Ribbit, ribbit.
the
They
Horned
do this.
Frogs.
This is the little hand
Yeah, there we
symbol.
go. Yeah,
The
yeah.
little, that's frogs. I don't know.
All right, man. No, I like that a lot. So that's it for me on college football plays, but I got a
Okay.
couple NFL plays. So I'll get into my first one. My first one was one I touched on a little bit earlier with this defenses. So glad that I talked about so many overs because we're going to go to under here, and that's going to be Commanders and Giants under 40.5. Two teams that are really, really good to bet on for the under. Commanders 8-4 to the under this year. Giants 7-3 to the under. And you guys know, you guys have watched these teams this year. You guys have watched them every year. Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback. The Giants offense is nothing to be super excited about. And we know that Taylor Heineke and this Washington Commanders offense is not that good either. Both reasons that these teams are actually kind of winning games right now, in my opinion, has been running the ball because Saquon's been doing his thing and then playing good defense, especially the Washington Commanders. We were kind of talking about getting these 19-13 type wins. This game has 20-16 finish written all over it, where somebody is holding that over ticket late and they're like, oh, dude, it's 20-16. We could get that late touchdown, and they just run out of time. Like, this does not feel like it's going to cross 40 to me. So I'm going to take under 40.5 and rely on those defenses, man.
I like it. I've got one college game left, and then I've got two NFL games. So quickly going into my college game, I'm going UCF Tulane over. We run it back. Beast was on this last time, and I watched a lot of that game because I ended up tailing him. It's over 57. I got it at 56.5. I think it's going to keep climbing in that direction. That's always a good sign. They played last time. It was 38-31. You look at UCF's last game, 46-39 winners. Their offense is clicking. Their defense is not. That's great for an over. Tulane, they had a tough game against a very defensive-minded Cincinnati team, but won, which tells me that offense could find a way to get a W when they need one. Last time these teams played, it was electric. I'm banking on that again. It's going to be great weather in New Orleans is what it looks like right now. You got field turf. Always loving it. Good over on turf. This is where the game was played last time too. So there's some comfortability for UCF and obviously the home team Tulane. I'm going with the over here in that one.
I love it. I'm gonna have to tail. I might as well just add it to my card right now because you're right. Had it already the first time, might as well run it back. So many reasons outside of just that first game too to believe that this game could go over. Whether it's the John Reese Plumlee stuff, whether it's that UCF defense that has been kind of in shambles, whether it's Tulane trying to prove themselves after kind of getting smoked by UCF last time at home.
Yep.
Lot of storylines that make me feel like these offenses will really come
low key
a
fun game. 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. East Coast on ABC. It's going to be low key a fun game for the American Championship.
I agree, man. I definitely do. Gonna go to a game that's not so fun. And that's going to be Steelers at Falcons. I'm going to take the Steelers money line. I guess I shouldn't say it's not fun because the Falcons have been kind of a fun team to watch this year. But anybody that watched Monday Night Football, Kenny Pickett probably had his best game so far. I'm not saying he was elite. By no means was he elite. But he played a really solid and clean game against the Colts. Really think he can build on that game. I think the Steelers defense, we know that they're still dogs. Falcons, as much as they've been pesky at times this year, they've had a lot of struggles recently, in my opinion. Not playing their best ball. Kenny Pickett, man, maybe he's gaining a little bit of confidence. He looked really, really just locked in, I would say, on Monday. I don't think he had any passing touchdowns, didn't have any interceptions, but his completion percentage was well over 70%. He was moving the ball. Steelers looked pretty good in that win. I could see kind of a similar offense with Najee Harris and those guys kind of going. You know what? I like that Steelers team, man. I think Steelers money line, it's minus 105. So this is a total pick 'em. If you guys want to go with +1, if you can find it, or -1, either way, I just went with the money line because it's pretty much even. So I think the Steelers go and pick this one up on the road at the Falcons this weekend.
I like a lot of the pieces the Steelers have. We'll see if Kenny Pickett keeps taking steps forward. I like that he's not afraid to use his legs. So there you go. I'm going with my NFL play here. I'm going with the Green Bay Packers on the road. I know Aaron Rodgers, man. He sort of sadly owns the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears are tanking. I don't think Justin Fields plays in this game. I think Aaron Rodgers will play in this game. Excuse me. There's a lot of things that the Packers did right this last weekend. I know they didn't win against the Philadelphia Eagles, but they played really well. Now, their defense was not good, but Philly's got a good team. I mean, that's a really good team. tough matchup for them. Chicago is tanking. You look in their schedule, they got smoked by the Jets last week, and they've got 2 extra guys who are out. Eddie Jackson's out, and there's someone on offense that I can't think of as well. I was just looking at their injury report. It's insane. The guys that aren't already confirmed out, you got guys like Chase Claypool who are questionable. Like I already mentioned, Justin Fields questionable. If they're questionable, why would they play? They're trying to lose. So there's no reason for them to play well. I think there's going to be a lot of Packers fans there in Soldier Field, which I hate to say because I don't like the Packers, but I'm taking them here -4. I think they get it done.
I like it. No, that's a good one, especially from an NFC North perspective. Aaron Rodgers always seems to play good. Doesn't look like Fields is probably going to play. So if you're going to bet on one of the quarterbacks probably playing, I would probably think that Aaron Rodgers would be leaning more towards playing than Fields would. But I got one more NFL play, and then that's it for me. But I got Raiders +1.5 at home versus the Chargers. Shout out our guy B-Russ. As much as the Raiders have sucked this year, I think at home they could pull this one off. We're getting a +1.5. They've rattled off 2 wins in a row here. They're going to be at home in Allegiant Stadium. I think the fans are going to kind of get it going, especially if somebody's going down for the Pac-12 championship, which I believe is at Allegiant Stadium as well.
It is.
Maybe you kind of parlay that into a Saturday and Sunday thing. Vegas is going to be rolling. All those gamblers might just try to kind of hit. That would be a really fun weekend. It would be an expensive weekend, believe me. You'd have to hope you win a couple bets. But I think the Raiders fans and other fans from the Pac-12 are going to stack that stadium up. I think it's going to be really, really good vibes in there. Hey, Derek Carr, since he did his little speech where he was kind of crying and everybody kind of disrespected him, they've been playing some decent ball. And I can see the Raiders kind of pulling this one off. We're getting +1.5. So I like it.
Yeah, you take that all the time. I'm going to go to my last play for best bets. I'm going with a teaser, and this is in the Cowboys game, but I'm going with the Colts +17.5 over 37.5. So that's a 6-point teaser off the current lines. Dallas is big favorites. I just think the Colts don't even have to keep it close. This is a huge backdoor number. Cowboys offense, I expect to be rolling. The Colts are going to score some points late in the game. Like they'll probably put Sam Ellinger in late and they'll figure out a way to score a point or two. It's not a high total. It's a ton of points. I think the Cowboys get it done. But ultimately, the Colts, they're fighting still. They didn't win last weekend against Pittsburgh, but it was a good, they battled, especially there in the second half. So I expect a little bit of a battle, but the Cowboys to win in a little bit of a closer game. Give me the 17.5. Give me the over 37.5. I think it's a fun teaser. NFL teasers are a good time.
They are. No, I should have been doing more of them because I had some success with them last year. Definitely, especially like on prime time. I know you've been doing really well with them. So I think it's perfect, man.
All right, move us into our money line dogs. I've got mine lined up. We're ready for yours.
All right, so I already kind of broke down this team a little bit, and I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to come back to them later on, and that's going to be Fresno State. I know we have the +3.5, so I'm like highly invested in Fresno State this week, and I'm okay with that because we got the best quarterback in the Mountain West. We're going to take +135 on the money line. It's a really nice money line if you're looking for, kind of just something to kind of bet on the side for your conference championship games. We love Jake Hayner. We like their receiver, their top receiver there, Jalen Cropper. It's Jalen Moreno Cropper now. Yeah, a little bit of a name change. Whatever. Solid receiver. Another receiver they got there. Really, really solid. So regardless, the whole point here that I guess I'm trying to get to is just that Fresno State's playing the best ball of their season right now. Boise State, as good as they've been this year, it's going to be a much different matchup than they had earlier this year. And I think that Fresno State team continues their dominance of what they've been doing recently. And I think they can pull off the upset here, +3.5, +135. Take it all, baby.
I like it. I'm already on the dog, so I'm ready for it. I'm going to go to my money line dog. I changed it up. I thought I was going to be nice to the Vikings fans this weekend. Wrong. I'm going New York Jets on the money line. I love Mike White. He came in there and put on an offensive show in the pouring rain. I was on the under teased in that game, and he made it not look like even competitive. He had over 300 yards passing in the rain. What do you think he's going to do in the Dome? This is a spot where the Vikings, I think, a little bit overlook the Jets, but now the Jets have a little bit of a rejuvenation with quote unquote a better quarterback. I don't know if he actually is, but he definitely was last week. And that's got to be what the defense is thinking. Everybody's kind of, we got some momentum now. Like we can still get to the playoffs. We're in kind of a wild card spot. Vikings, on the other hand, they're cruising. They're going to win the division no matter what, basically. So this is one they maybe overlook at noon. It is Kirk Cousins at noon, the noon nightmare. So I understand, and I understand what the group chat's going to try to do to me. They're not going to like me for this, but I'm going Jets money line on this one, plus 130, plus 140. It's up there wherever you can get it. I'm excited.
I like it. I really do.
Okay, so we're going to go to the pod parlay next, and I kind of have a bit of a proposition because I don't know if you've already got a different bet locked in for this, but I was thinking, because mine was going to be Georgia minus 17.5. What if you do the over 51
Perfect,
and then we do the double dip as the pod parlay because it's been so good?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I feel like it's a good situation. I was between two bets, and one of them was Georgia LSU over 51, and I think I was gonna lean with that anyways. So I'm really glad you said that because I was just looking it up and I'm like, you know what? I think I gotta go with it, man. Everything in my gut is telling me to take that over 51, and I think the exact reason I'm taking over 51 is exactly what you said, which is Georgia can roll in this game. So both those bets kind of coincide with each other. You know what I mean?
They really do. They really do, especially if Georgia gets up big. No reason to have those starters in late. We're looking forward to the playoffs. So I think that's the way the game goes. I think they're up 25 or 35 or somewhere in there. There's a couple points scored late. It gets us to this over. I'm excited. The double dip, it's been good to us this year. We're going to ride it again. We'll see how it goes. Beast, do you have anything to say before we sign out?
Not too much. Good luck to anybody that has teams in the conference championship this weekend. It's going to be a really, really fun weekend. Obviously, NFL is going to be great too because things are heating up in all those playoff races. But make sure to tune in for all the podcasts we kind of got coming up next week as far as recapping these really good games.
We have a big recap episode coming up on Tuesday morning.
It is, man. It definitely is. So, shoot us a follow, guys. Keep tracking on our plays on Twitter just because PG's right. We'll probably be adding more plays to the slate. We always seem to do that.
We love to, especially on Sundays, it seems like, for better or for worse. But at Potato Gobbler, at Coda Capper Beast is where you can find us. Appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. If you see the tweet up on one of our pages, if you just give us a like, it's a big deal. If you give us a retweet, it's even a bigger deal. Either one of those are very appreciated. We love doing this show. We've been grinding it out all season. Have a really good record going right now. So we're hoping to keep that going in the conference championship weekend and getting further into this NFL week. So, peace out, guys.
Peace out.